always had my suitcase ready to go. Then one day, I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me. My parents cook my favorite breakfast for me every morning. My parents take me on trips I never thought I would go on. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.
I found hope in the midst of an overwhelming situation.
Alcoholism is a disease that can affect any family. Everyone suffers, but there is help and hope at Al-Anon Family Groups.
Al-Anon gave me my life back. I'm a better father and husband.
Are you in an overwhelming situation because of someone else's drinking? Al-Anon and Alateen can help. Local and virtual meetings are available. Maybe one could work for you. Call 1-866-200-0033 or visit alanon.org/hope.
After week of severe weather, it's now more spotty activity as the West Coast begins to bake. I'm meteorologist Ricky Cody with a look at your weather on the ones. Here's kind of like the big headline for our East and Mid-Atlantic state friends. We've got flooding concerns as we head towards the end of the week and into the upcoming weekend. Severe weather, flooding, bringing a June gloom as we head into the second full weekend of June. A couple of spotty areas where we have a level 1 risk for isolated showers and storms. That includes Minnesota as well as Wisconsin, parts of the Great Lakes. A little bit of DC with a level 1 risk, and then up here from basically the northeast and into Maine, where damage can't be ruled out. Here's how things play out for the remainder of our afternoon and evening. Again, it's not going to be widespread. Popcorn style-esque really is what we'll deal with ongoing showers and storms eventually moving into the north and east. Here's about 8 o'clock local time, East Coast time. Again, showers here approaching New York, which will probably arrive overnight tonight into the early morning hours tomorrow. Again, any one of these storms could produce some damaging winds, some small hail, and again, an isolated tornado cannot be ruled out. Let's talk about Albany, for example. We've got scattered rain showers taking us right through the end of the week and into the weekend. I can't guarantee any specific dry time over the course of the next 7 days. And it looks as though we could, over the next week, pick up on anywhere between 1 to 2 inches of rain. I think that's pretty sound, kind of across the board. There will be areas, though, that could get on even more rainfall across parts of Vermont, New Hampshire, and into Maine, possibly upwards of 2 to 3 inches. So again, it is the weekend. For everyone else, we've talked about the heat, and we've got more of it on the way. You've got high pressure building in across the southwest, keeping triple-digit heat around, and then more rain across the mid-Atlantic.
The ages and abilities of both Joe Biden and Donald Trump are giving voters pause this election season, and now a new look from the Wall Street Journal on the president's cognitive state. It finds, quote, that Democrats and some who have known him back to his time as vice president described a president who appears slower now, someone who has both good moments and bad ones, although the paper notes that most of those who said Biden performed poorly were Republicans, and it also public remarks. All the way of saying that we're going to talk about this now with political anchor Tim Boyum. You know, Tim, I kind of hesitated about bringing up this story, which is, it's on Fox News a lot now, and it's big on the Wall Street Journal website, but I'm not sure what's really new in it. Biden is in his 80s, Trump is near it. Both have big issues with voters. I'm curious to know what your thoughts are.
Yeah, I mean, it's another situation where, first of all, it is an issue for real voters. I mean, I have friends I've talked to in recent weeks, and they bring it up over and over, not just with Biden, but with Trump as well. And so I do think it is an issue still. For some reason, it is still more of an issue for President Biden than it has been for Donald Trump. And so when these articles keep coming up over and over, it is just another issue for President Biden. I found most interesting that the White House staff was monitoring the reporting into this story so closely and going as far to talk to Democrats who had been interviewed. Those Democrats then reaching back out to the reporter to try to give further context or comment about it. It shows it's almost a crisis communications situation for the president's White House staff. And then they clearly feel like it's a problem moving forward, too.
Yeah, that's why I think this debate is so big. All right, we're going to shift over to some primaries last night, and it showed, Tim, that people are still looking for alternatives to both of these men. This has happened before to a larger extent in previous election cycles, but it's got to be somewhat at least concerning for both men that, say, like in New Mexico, for both Biden and Trump, and in New Jersey for Biden, there's still more than 10% of people pulling the tab for someone else. Folks, there isn't going to be someone else.
Yeah, and to me, at least in a state like North Carolina in particular, this is going to be a turnout election. You're not likely going to swing too many voters. There'll be some right in the margins, but it's really turnout and trying to get your base out there. And if there are voters that not to show up, I mean, that 10% or 8%, 7% could have a huge impact in states like North Carolina. So we need to continue to monitor this because it's not March anymore. You know, we're in summer and Labor Day is right around the corner, whether we want it to be or not.
So let's talk about North Carolina. The ad wars have begun in the race for governor. We're going to show a spot from Josh Stein. He's the Democrat running against Republican Mark Robinson.
The abortion in this country is not about protecting the lives of mothers. It's about killing a child because you aren't responsible enough to keep your skirt down.
So, Tim, we normally think of the candidate at the top of the ticket as having coattails, meaning paving the way for those below to win. Could it be that the governor's race in North Carolina draws people to Democrats, or the reverse, that Republicans, the Republican gubernatorial candidate draws people to Donald Trump?
Yeah, you know, it's interesting. North Carolina has some consideration of that fact. Mark Robinson has a lot of baggage, according to Democrats and even some Republicans. He's got a lot of comments. That's just one of the things. There is tape after tape after tape about him saying controversial things, not just about abortion, but about transgender individuals and the gay community and many other things as well. But we do have a record of split ticket voting with the governor's race and the presidential race. And so there is a history there. We'll have to see, but it is something to watch very, very closely.
Yeah, particularly in a very close race. All right, Tim, we'll talk later.
Yeah. Good to see you.
Tomorrow marks the 80th anniversary of D-Day. That's the unprecedented invasion of Nazi-occupied France by the Allies. Dozens of American veterans are in Normandy visiting the beaches that they landed on back in 1944. This year is expected to be the last big celebration.
I had no idea that anything like this would be prepared.
President Biden will join the president of France and other leaders to mark the anniversary tomorrow morning, and we will have special coverage right here on Spectrum News. The hard work dogs put in for federal agencies sometimes may go unnoticed. Just ahead, the new bipartisan bill aimed to better serve canines on Capitol Hill in their retirement.
Spectrum News Plus. News from a new perspective, dedicated to refreshing storytelling and empowering communities across the nation. With balanced reporting, providing real content 24 hours a day.
Here's a look at your forecast across the country.
Local stories, connecting communities. We are Spectrum News Plus. Streaming now on the Spectrum News app and free with your Spectrum subscription.
I don't remember how it started.
Go to that.
Oh boy. Our back and forth.
Dad!
You probably don't remember what you told me,
That was perfect.
but I heard every word.
Hey, Bobo, do trees tell each other stories?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, why don't we go find out? Listen.
Do clouds take naps?
I couldn't tell you.
Dad, do stars visit their friends?
Look!
Meteorologist Ricky Cody with a look at your weather on the ones. As much of the country gets in on the heat, it is a good reminder as we get more into the summer months how important, how critical it is to listen to your body. There is a very fine line between heat exhaustion and heat stroke. Heat exhaustion, dizziness, heavy sweating, you get real thirsty, could get nauseous, and you'll feel your body becoming weak. What you need to do, move to a cooler area. If you're outside for long periods of time, make sure you're getting into some AC. Sip, don't chug. Cool water. And then, unfortunately, if you don't see those or act on those symptoms, then that could lead to heat stroke, and that's confusion, dizziness, potentially becoming unconscious. This is when you need to call 911 because it could lead to death if you don't seek medical attention. Now, that's just if you're outside working. A lot of us may be in construction. This heat, when the temperature is around 90 degrees, after 5 minutes, the internal temperature of that car is 98. Remember, the internal car temperature is a factor of time, not temperature. So even if the temperature stayed 90 degrees the entire day long, after 15 minutes, it feels like 115 degrees inside the car. And then after 1 hour, 133. That is dangerous heat. And unfortunately, that is the reality for many of us over the next couple of days. A real taste of summer, and for some of you, earlier than normal. Heat index values, so that's the actual temperature that you would, the apparent temperature in the afternoon when you account for how humid it is. We've got really, really warm waters in the Gulf of Mexico. That is why we are expecting a hyperactive 2024 Atlantic hurricane season. We're just dealing with bath water. Well, while there aren't any hurricanes to talk about or tropical systems, all of that moisture moves inland. And look at these feels-like temperatures across Texas. I mean, look at these heat index values for Florida. Feeling like 102 in Orlando, 103 in Tampa, 104 Fort Myers. Maybe we'll bring in some rain to help cool things down a bit, but when you get up there to between 103 and 120 plus heat index values, that is where you're right there on the cusp of heat exhaustion and heat stroke, so make sure you're listening to your bodies. In the meantime, we've got a dry heat, but heat nonetheless across the western half of the country as heat alerts take us right through the end of the week.
A reminder from police as the U.S. faces another heat wave: don't leave kids or dogs locked in cars. Officers in Florida saved a dog over the weekend from a hot U-Haul truck.
Oh, hello, little baby. Oh, this thing's so thirsty.
The dog's owners left her there while they went to the beach for an hour. A passerby noticed the dog and called police, who eventually let the pup out. The air temperature was 86 degrees, meaning inside likely felt more like 100 degrees. The dog was taken to a local humane society. Charges for the owners were not announced. Disney is on the verge of striking a $17 billion deal with the Central Florida Tourism and Oversight District, something that was delayed by Disney's litigation with Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, which ended in March. Today, 5 supervisors appointed by DeSantis voted to approve the deal. A second vote is still needed. If approved, the deal will last for the next 15 years. And in that time, Disney has permission to build 3 more theme parks, increase the total number of hotel rooms by nearly 13,000, and grow the amount of retail and restaurant spaces. In return, Disney would have to award companies, invest at least $10 million in affordable housing, and donate 100 acres of land to local infrastructure projects. The vote to finalize the deal is set for next week. Capitol Hill goes to the dogs as lawmakers and animal advocates highlight 2 pieces of legislation aimed at protecting our 4-legged friends. Spectrum's national reporter Angie Gonzalez has a story from Washington.
A handful of hero dogs give their stamp of approval to a pair of animal welfare bills that have bipartisan support but still need to be passed by both the House and Senate before going to President Joe Biden's desk.
That was great.
American Humane, which lobbies for legislation like the Pet Safe Act and the Working Dog Health and Welfare Act, put this event together to call on lawmakers to pass both proposals.
These are dogs who do extraordinary things. They really help us heal. They provide therapy.
The Act would provide funding through a pilot program to operate mobile pet shelters during emergencies or disasters. The bill on working dogs, already passed in the Senate, would establish standards to ensure they are treated humanely during their service.
Summer is a hero in my book. For like a hero.
Dogs like Summer, a retired explosives detection dog, and other service animals in attendance couldn't speak to the bills themselves. But they do have a celebrity advocate and animal lover on their side.
We're talking to lawmakers about two very important bills that essentially protect and make sure that the animals that protect and take care of us are also being taken care of.
Devoid of the chaos and controversy that may surround other legislative efforts on Capitol Hill, the biggest thing standing in the way of passing both bills is time.
The hurdle is in getting both pieces of legislation on the end of this Congress. If they don't become law before then, legislators will have to start from scratch in January. In Washington, Angie Gonzalez, Spectrum News.
Good doggies. I'm Josh Robin. Thanks so much for watching. Your Spectrum News in 90 coming up right after this short break. Stay with us.
The 2024 election will decide who leads our nation and the balance of power in Congress, impacting all of us. From Capitol Hill to the Oval Office, let Spectrum News be your resource for balanced, in-depth coverage with our dedicated experts strengthening democracy by informing your community. That's our mission. Available on all of your favorite devices, exclusively on Spectrum.
At Spectrum, our workforce of over 100,000 employees are all located right here in the U.S. You can find them in our stores, in the field, and in our call centers with 100% U.S.-based customer service. Our team works hard to provide the towns, cities, and neighborhoods they live in with the reliable services that everyone counts on, making us one of America's most trusted companies. We're Spectrum, creating jobs and opportunities across the country, and proud to be 100% U.S.-based.
When I never graduated from high school, I realized I wanted to go back to school because I didn't want to work these back-breaking jobs the rest of my life. With the help of my father and having my son, I know that I could take on whatever challenges life throws at you.
Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org.
My mother was always very familiar with her neighborhood, but one day she stopped at the stop sign for much longer than usual. And she didn't know whether she should go forward or turn, and she wasn't even really sure where she was at. It was very unsettling for her.
I felt so much better after my son told me, "Mom, I don't want you to worry or be afraid. I'll be there for you, and we'll figure it out."
I'm Josh. Usual across much of the Southwest. Excessive heat warnings were issued through Friday for parts of California, Nevada, and Arizona. The National Weather Service says parts could see their highest temperatures since last September. Forecasters say temperatures are likely to top 110 degrees Fahrenheit by Thursday. The Lebanese military says it captured a gunman that attacked the U.S. Embassy in Beirut. One embassy security guard was hurt, as well as the attacker. The shooting comes as tensions are rising in the region. Months of fighting between Hezbollah and Israeli troops have displaced thousands of people along the border. The Lebanese military has deployed troops around the embassy and surrounding areas. Day 3 of Hunter Biden's gun trial started today with cross-examination of an FBI agent who's being questioned about messages he sent around the time of the gun purchase in question. First Lady Jill Biden attended the proceedings for the third day. Prosecutors say the president's son had a drug problem that was ongoing when he lied on a form to buy a firearm. Hunter says he's being unfairly targeted. Those are your headlines. Now we're going to take a look at that dangerous weather and your other weather on the One forecast.
While the West Coast bakes, the Northeast gets in on some rain. I'm meteorologist Ricky Cody with Look at Your Weather on the Ones. Look at this, 100 degrees Phoenix, San Francisco in the 70s, Seattle in the 60s. More rain though, Chicago to New York. As we head through our afternoon, we're in the 80s across Atlanta. Quiet weather ongoing, but hot weather. Billings in the 80s as we head through your day on Thursday. Minneapolis in the 70s. Miami, some showers and storms, and in the 90s.
Threatening triple-digit temperatures broiling the Southwest this afternoon. Good day. I'm Josh Robin. Nearly 30 million Americans are under some form of watch or warning as a heat dome envelops California, Nevada, and Arizona. Firefighters in America's hottest city are trying new tactics to save more lives this summer. Phoenix saw 645 heat-related deaths last year. Crews there will now begin immersing heat stroke victims in ice on the way to area hospitals. It is a similar tactic used by marathon runners and the military. And meteorologist Ricky Cody joins me from our Austin Weather Center. Ricky, I've been looking at the headlines from India where the heat has caused dozens of deaths, and it looks also dangerous as I see those numbers there here in the United States. How hot are things getting today?
Well, you got to remember, Josh, that heat kills more people. I mean, these are just a handful of potential record high temperatures that we could set later on this afternoon. Del Rio, Texas just broke a record yesterday, could do it again with a forecast of 109. The current record is 107. Vegas could do it. A couple of locations in California also. We have heat advisories and excessive heat warnings in effect through the end of the week. So in the short term, the heat isn't going anywhere. High pressure dominating our forecast means that we're going to have periods of extended heat. Meanwhile, an area of low pressure brings us some chances for some showers and storms across the Northeast. Josh, the short answer is if you wanted summer, it's here, and it's here to stay.
Yep, stay cool and hope you check on neighbors too. Thanks, Ricky.
Yep.
As temperatures skyrocket and stay higher for longer, there are concerns about how people will be able to stay cool and how much it's all going to cost. I'm joined now by Spectrum.
Dangerous, and this is a cost now for people who are going to have to figure out how are they going to cool their homes as these temperatures continue to soar. You know, there are cooling strategies and cooling costs that people are going to have to figure out. I spoke with Mark Wolf, the executive director of the National Energy Assistance Directors Association earlier today, who told me that these higher temperatures, they're here to stay. And with them will come these higher electricity and energy bills. A study by the organization found that the cost of keeping cool is expected to rise nearly 8% from June to September to an average of $719. It was $661 this time last year during that same period. Well, Wolf says families will have to think about this as a new expense that's here to stay, but advises that people can search for some cost-saving programs that can help.
For families, the real thing is this. They should plan for rising temperatures, take a hard look at how they cool their home. The federal government, for example, has tax credits, and for low to moderate income families, they also have grant programs to help families upgrade the cooling systems in their home.
Well, Wolf warns that while those programs do exist, policymakers will have to allocate more funding, more money for these programs to keep up with the rise in need. Utility experts advise people in these areas to do what they can to conserve energy and save on costs, and that includes, you know, that long-standing advice: turn the lights off in the rooms that you're not using and do everything you can to save money. Josh.
Okay, Lori, thank you so much. A gunman opened fire on the U.S. Embassy in Lebanon early today, injuring a security guard. Lebanese troops captured the suspect near Beirut after 30 minutes of fighting. Local media reported that he was wearing a vest with the words Islamic State written on it. Officials say the gunman appeared to be a lone attacker. The shooting took place in a region rocked by hostilities between Hezbollah. 7 terror attacks. There has been a tit-for-tat exchange of fire over the border that has resulted in tens of thousands of Israelis forced to leave their homes in the northern part of that country. Hunter Biden's ex-wife has been on the witness stand this afternoon in his federal gun trial. National political reporter Taylor Popolars is following the case from Washington, D.C. And Taylor, who was testifying?
Well, as you just mentioned, Hunter's ex-wife, Kathleen, they were married for a couple of decades. She took the stand and briefly was questioned by the prosecution, mostly just about what she experienced as her ex-husband, while they were still together, was beginning the throes of his addiction to crack cocaine. Before she took the stand, which is obviously a significant family member, we heard the final portion of testimony from an FBI agent named Erica Jensen, who spent all day yesterday on the stand as well, breaking down a lot of evidence and why the government was pushing this case forward. Interestingly enough, there was a press actually using cocaine when he purchased a gun in October 2018. His team argued he was more so battling alcohol addiction at that point. So the jury's been kind of faced with that evidence and this back and forth before hearing this more intimate and emotional family testimony. Josh?
Okay, Taylor, we'll check in with you later. Thank you. President Joe Biden's executive order shutting down asylum requests at the southern border is now in effect. The president's unilateral move has been met by criticism from Republicans and Democrats. Our Adolfo Muniz is at the border with more on how migrants are reacting to the news.
President Biden's executive action caught a lot of people by surprise here at the border, especially on the Mexican side of the border. Migrants who were already there trying to make their way to the United States and were waiting to cross, now they don't know what to think. There's a lot of misinformation. We spoke to several NGOs, organizations on the ground, who they tell me that migrants believe that the border is already closed. Even so, many don't believe that this executive action is going to have a significant impact at the border at this moment. And that's because the number of border crossings has been steadily going down. There are several factors. One, Operation Lone Star for sure, but the other one is Mexico's immigration is overstepping its enforcement and has been doing it for quite a while. So really the border, at least here in the Rio Grande Valley, has not seen in the last 24 hours a lot of difference. Right here in Hidalgo, where I am, that's the border wall. At a given time every day, they open that gate for migrants to come in and be processed. Yesterday, we could only see 3 of them. Even so, here at the border, expectations also, there are a lot of them. In Hidalgo, Texas, Adolfo Muniz, Spectrum News.
A new method of birth control for men is reported as the most effective ever. We sit down with someone who worked on larger discussions surrounding birth control. That's next.
When I was your age, I was just like you, fascinated by stars. But now I get to search for life in the universe. And who knows, maybe life is looking for us too.
So we're like aliens to them?
Yeah. Does anyone want to be a scientist now?
I do.
Awesome. We need more girls in STEM.
Maybe we can find aliens.
People count on Spectrum to keep them connected to what matters most. Our commitment runs deep with a fully U.S.-based workforce and a network of communities we serve. Cheer for the same teams, shop at the same stores, and work hard to deliver the best internet, TV, and mobile services. Because, well, we count on them too. We're Spectrum, connecting the places we all call home.
At Spectrum News, we're committed to strengthening the fabric of local communities through our reporting, with stories that inspire and news that matters. Streaming live on your smart TV and connected devices, plus on-demand weather forecasts. It's all there as you step outside with the Spectrum News mobile app, keeping you informed and in the know throughout your day. Spectrum News Plus, local stories, connecting communities. Exclusively for Spectrum customers. Now available on your favorite devices.
After week of severe weather, it's now more spotty activity as the West Coast begins to bake. I'm meteorologist Ricky Cody with a look at your weather on the ones. Here's kind of like the big headline for our East and Mid-Atlantic state friends. We've got flooding concerns as we head towards the end of the week and into the upcoming weekend. Severe weather, flooding, bringing a June level 1 risk for isolated showers and storms. That includes Minnesota as well as Wisconsin, parts of the Great Lakes. A little bit of D.C. with a level 1 risk, and then up here from basically the northeast and into Maine, where damaging winds, large hail, and an isolated tornado can't be ruled out. Here's how things play out for the remainder of our afternoon and evening. Again, it's not going to be widespread. Popcorn style-esque really is what we'll deal with ongoing showers and storms eventually moving into the north and east. Here's about 8 o'clock local time, East Coast time. Again, showers here approaching New York, which will probably arrive overnight tonight into the early morning hours tomorrow. Again, any one of these storms could produce some damaging winds, some small hail, and again, an isolated tornado cannot be ruled out. Let's talk about Albany, for example. We've got scattered rain showers taking us right through the end of the week and into the weekend. I can't guarantee any, though. We could, over the next week, pick up on anywhere between 1 to 2 inches of rain. I think that's pretty sound, kind of across the board. There will be areas, though, that could get on even more rainfall across parts of Vermont, New Hampshire, and into Maine, possibly upwards of 2 to 3 inches. So again, it is the concern for flooding as we head into the weekend. For everyone else, we've talked about the heat, and we've got more of it on the way. You've got high pressure building in across the southwest, keeping triple-digit heat around, and then more rain across the mid-Atlantic.
A birth control option for men is showing promising results. That's according to researchers on the trial. Spectrum News anchor Robert Guadarrama, you spoke with one of the leading researchers, the chief researcher, the scientist in this.
Many years that folks have called for a birth control option for men. In fact, this gel actually went into development nearly 20 years ago, finally now showing signs of success. So it's a gel that men rub onto their shoulders. That's right, once a day. And over time, it is said to block the production of sperm. The contraception gel functions very similar to female birth control pills. It was developed by the National Institutes of Health and the nonprofit Population Council. I spoke with Diana Blythe of the NIH about the efficacy of this gel.
We had thought, well, the efficacy is probably going to be similar to a hormonal birth control pill, which requires daily use. And in typical use, that failure rate's around 8%. This is working much better than that.
All right, so let me underscore that she says this works better than female birth works. It uses a hormone called nesterone to suppress the production of testosterone, which halts the production of sperm. It also replenishes the body with non-sperm producing testosterone because, of course, men still need an appropriate level of testosterone in their bodies. Josh?
And how soon, Robert, can we actually expect this to be available for men to use?
Right, not anytime soon. Let me be clear there. So the final phase of testing could start as early as 2025 if the Food and Drug Administration gives approval for wide-scale trials. Then the FDA has to study those results before it gives its final approval. So if the FDA signs off, we're looking at about 5 to 7 years before we could see this released to the public. That's 5 to 7 years from now, Josh.
And why the shoulders? Why are men supposed to?
Right? I'm getting a lot of people asking that question. So it's a gel, and the gel needs to stay on the skin because it's a slow absorption type gel. And it needs to, Diana said that the best spot for men to put it where it wouldn't be rubbed off is the shoulder. They can put their shirt on over, and hopefully it wouldn't get rubbed off throughout the day. So
interesting.
Fascinating.
Okay, science. Thanks so much, Robert Guadarrama, reporting for us. After years of delays, Boeing has launched astronauts into space for the very first time. It was the third attempt since May. This makes Boeing the second taxi service for NASA alongside SpaceX. Spectrum's Greg Pallone and Jerry Hume were at the launch site as history was made.
Well worth the wait. The third time the charm. All the cliches you'd like to use. But this is spaceflight, and spaceflight is hard. But we did see a mighty Atlas V with a Boeing Starliner capsule with 2 NASA astronauts launching towards the International Space Station this morning.
10:52 a.m. local time from Pad 41 at the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. NASA astronauts Butch Wilmore Sunny Williams Niner is up to the task to carry astronauts to and from that orbiting outpost.
A beautiful launch right on time at 10:52 a.m. This is what it looked like.
3, 2, 1, ignition. And liftoff of Starliner and Atlas V, carrying 2 American heroes, drawing a line to the stars for all of us.
A gorgeous launch, the Atlas V bolting off Pad 41 at the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. Its mission to send the Starliner capsule with Butch and Sunny, NASA astronauts, up to the International Space Station for about a week-long mission.
Yeah, and from there, they're going to be testing out this Starliner, making sure that it is working properly for future missions on future Boeing CST-100 Starliners. They're going to spend about a week.
A test flight and a test landing, as well as they'll be landing after that 8 days or so out in the southwestern portion of the United States. So again, 2 humans headed to the space station on a spacecraft where humans have never flown before. A historic mission. We'll be following along as Butch and Sunny are headed to the space station for this historic Starliner mission. For Jerry Hume, I'm Greg Pallone, Spectrum News.
Spreading kindness and compassion through music. Coming up, how a Buffalo couple is striking a chord in their community as they help people battling homelessness.
Medicaid and CHIP offer free or low-cost health coverage for kids and teens. These programs cover doctors' appointments that our children are covered if they are sick or get injured. You may now be eligible for Medicaid too, even if you've applied in the past. Enrollment is always open. Visit insurekidsnow.gov or call 1-877-KIDS-NOW. Paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
So we learned about Spectrum's advanced Wi-Fi. We talked about Spectrum Internet, state-of-the-art security features. But today, you're gonna learn something different because our guest is a legend. He's literally shaped the way we think about the internet. Stephen, the floor is yours.
Thank you. We know that Spectrum delivers the most reliable internet speeds.
Woo! The most reliable internet speeds. You're not gonna find that in a book.
I wrote a book about it.
You don't need to read it because you just heard it.
Want the most reliable internet speeds? You want Spectrum One.
I'll be here to hear what's on your mind. Take no, I'll be there all your life. When you need me, I'll be by your side.
Little everyday conversations about the dangers of underage drinking can make a big difference in a child's life.
An answer to one of society's biggest questions may be found in the youngest minds. Does poverty impact a child's development, their performance in school? The hypothesis that mothers who have access to cash raise babies with stronger brain development.
The basis of the baby's first year study is really to understand whether providing economic support would change children's trajectories.
Exploring your health, budgeting for brain development, available on all your favorite devices.
I'm meteorologist Ricky Cody with a look at your weather on the ones. As much of the country gets in on the heat, it is a good reminder as we get more into the summer months how important, how critical it is to listen to your body. There is a very fine line between heat exhaustion and heat stroke. Heat exhaustion, dizziness, heavy sweating, you get real thirsty, could get nauseous, and you'll feel your body becoming weak. What you need to do, move to a cooler area. If you're outside for long periods of time, make sure you're getting into some AC. Sip, don't chug. Cool water. And then, unfortunately, if you don't see those or act on those symptoms, then that could lead to heat stroke, and that's confusion, dizziness, potentially becoming unconscious. This is when you need to call 911 because it could lead to death if you don't seek medical attention. Now, that's just construction. That's something to take note of. But if you're just out running errands kind of day to day, This heat, when the temperature is around 90 degrees, after 5 minutes, the internal temperature of that car is 98. Remember, the internal car temperature is a factor of time, not temperature. So even if the temperature stayed 90 degrees the entire day long, after 15 minutes, it feels like 115 degrees inside the car. And then after 1 hour, 133. That is dangerous heat. And unfortunately, that is the reality for many of us over the next couple of days. A real taste of summer, and for some of you, earlier than normal. Heat index values, so that's the actual temperature that you would, the apparent temperature in the afternoon when you account for how humid it is. We've got really, really warm waters in the Gulf of Mexico. That is why we are expecting a hyperactive 2024 Atlantic hurricane season. We're just dealing with bath water. Well, while there aren't any hurricanes to talk Texas, I mean, getting upwards of 120 degrees. Tomorrow, look at these heat index values for Florida. Feeling like 102 in Orlando, 103 in Tampa, 104 Fort Myers. Maybe we'll bring in some rain to help cool things down a bit, but when you get up there to between 103 and 120 plus heat index values, that is where you're right there on the cusp of heat exhaustion and heat stroke, so make sure you're listening to your bodies. In the meantime, we've got a dry heat, but heat nonetheless across the western half of the country as heat alerts take us right through the end of the week.
Spreading assistance while sharing music. One couple is using their background to collect their inspirational story.
Okay, sound check.
Ready?
There's just something about a good beat that draws you in. The Schulmeisters are counting on it.
They see us playing, they see our shirts, like, oh, that's a cool shirt, let me buy it, and then you talk about the charity. You got me running, going out of my mind.
For 6 years, these two, along with help from hundreds of other musicians, have put on shows for a cause.
West New York Drummers for Homeless People is a group of musicians that go out and raise money, and we collect goods like diapers, underwear, socks, toiletries. We collect it for homeless people.
These guys have been playing most of their lives.
They bought my CDs, they bought my t-shirts. You know, they came and just saw us play.
Now it's a matter of paying that support forward.
This is not a lucrative job.
Unless you're at the top. They know what it's kind of like to have a little.
1, 2, 3, they're gonna run back to me.
So when they either make it or get to a place where they're doing good, they're more than willing to help.
Help with a growing issue.
I'm a Buffalo school teacher, so as a Buffalo school teacher, I see the need. Over the summer, you see the lines for the lunches for the kids that are off of school are getting very long. It's not just inner city, it's suburbs, it's rural, it's all over the place. And it's getting worse.
They estimate since starting, between shows and collection boxes, they've raised $60,000 worth of goods and monetary donations. A gift for the community.
And give them what we've accumulated. It would bring you to tears to see the reaction on their face when I give them either a check or a truckload full of goods. It's just amazing.
They support 4 local shelters, but would love to see this effort spread.
I have been contacted from people from Erie, PA, and Syracuse, New York, Rochester, of doing this there. I would like to see this in actually every city in the country if I could.
And whether it's playing, singing, or working behind the scenes, there's no small role in this production. Each new person willing to give is music to their ears.
We have new fans that have discovered West New York Drummers because of the bands that are new to us. And we keep looking for more bands, more volunteers, more fans, so it just keeps growing.
And they all give, and it's amazing. It adds up. Ready?
Spectrum News.
That'll do it for now. I'm Josh Robin. Thanks so much for watching. Your Spectrum News in 90 coming up right after this short break. Stay with us.
The family's visit to the forest inspired a beautiful question. Mother, mother, am I a tree? You tell me to stand tall. You tell me to stay rooted. I think I am a tree. My child, of course you are. But what kind of tree doesn't matter what you choose, so long as you choose to be a tree that's kind.
Make the forest part of your story at a park near you. Find one at discovertheforest.org.
Running a small business means running marketing and sales and inventory and customer service and handling pretty much every single thing that comes up, ever. All-in-one small business owners need all-in-one connectivity to make it all work. Spectrum Business is made to work for small business. Get one advanced solution for the lowest price with Spectrum One for Business. Fast, reliable internet, free advanced Wi-Fi with Security Shield, and a free mobile line, all for only $49.99 per month. You're doing it all and can trust that Spectrum Business has your back with ultra-fast internet and over 99.9% network reliability, plus advanced Wi-Fi with Security Shield to provide 24/7 cyber protection. And get a free mobile line to stay connected all the time. Get Spectrum One for only $49.99 per month. Call 855-581-6858 today. Spectrum Business, made to work.
You are loved. You are valued. You are resilient. You got this.
You're there for them. We're here for you. Find free care guides at aarp.org/caregiving.
I'm Sharon Tazwell. Here's your Spectrum News. Wife and former girlfriend took the stand Wednesday in his federal gun trial. Both women detailed his drug use leading up to him purchasing a gun. The president's son is accused of lying about his drug use to purchase a gun in 2018. He has pleaded not guilty in all 3 charges. A Georgia appeals court has halted the election subversion case against former President Donald Trump and several of his co-defendants. The new order filed Wednesday puts the case on pause until a panel of judges rules on whether Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis should be removed. The judge overseeing the case had initially allowed proceedings to continue while that happens. The move will likely push back the trial past the presidential election. The U.S. says Hamas has yet to officially transmit their stated opposition to a ceasefire proposal outlined by President Biden last week. Top Biden administration officials are in Qatar to continue negotiations. Meantime, killed at least 70 people in the last 48 hours.
All we can do is put a deal on the table that is in the interest of the Palestinian people, hope that enough countries in the world make clear that Hamas ought to take this deal.
Those are your headlines. Now, here's a look at your weather on the ones.
Hi there, I'm meteorologist Robert Santos. Well, one look at the map here and you'll see that the most active weather will be in the eastern half of the lower 48 here. So as we go throughout the day Thursday, now some of that thunderstorm chance will now move into the northeast. And so there could be some excessive rainfall in this area causing some flooding. Temperatures starting off in the 60s across the east, warm for the southwest. Now look at the temperatures during the day. Boston's come back to more average, 70 for a high on Thursday. The desert southwest, above average, triple digits there.
I'm Sharon Tazwell. Key testimony Wednesday in Hunter Biden's federal gun trial. Stories about drug use and strip clubs as the First Lady sat in the front row of the courtroom. Biden's ex-wife and ex-girlfriend both taking the stand in the first ever trial against a sitting president's son. Spectrum's Taylor Popolars, who's been following the trial all week, leads us off.
The 12-person jury in Wilmington heard testimony from 4 of the prosecution's witnesses on Wednesday, including Hunter Biden's ex-wife, Kathleen Buell, and one of his former girlfriends. Buell described in brief testimony learning about Biden's crack cocaine addiction and the role it played in ending their marriage. Jurors also heard from ex-girlfriend Zoe Kestan, who walked through Biden's extensive drug use in hotels and Airbnbs during their relationship in 2018, the same year Biden bought the gun at the center of the trial. The president's son faces 3 federal charges that accuse him of lying to a federal in the application he was not a drug user and illegally owning the gun for 11 days. His defense team argues Biden was addicted to alcohol, not cocaine, when he bought the gun in October 2018. The witnesses who testified Wednesday could not confirm he was actively using illegal drugs when he bought the gun. First Lady Jill Biden was back in court for the 3rd day in a row to support Hunter Biden before flying to France to meet President Joe Biden there to mark the 80th anniversary of D-Day. The jury was also shown the gun Hunter Biden purchased as the prosecution questioned the man who sold it to him. In Washington, Taylor Popolars, Spectrum News.
Republican lawmakers are referring Hunter and James Biden for criminal prosecution. The House Oversight Committee sent a letter Wednesday to the Department of Justice saying the two should be charged with making false statements to Congress about key aspects of the impeachment inquiry of President in his family's alleged influence schemes. As for the former president, Donald Trump, we're following major developments in his election subversion case in Fulton County, Georgia. Spectrum's Evan Kozloff joins us from Washington. Evan, what can you tell us?
Right, there's a brand new order filed by the Georgia Appeals Court. Here it is. It's just 1 page, but it has a big impact. The Appeals Court halted the election subversion case against former President Donald Trump until a panel of judges decides whether or not to remove the Fulton County District Attorney, Fani Willis. You may recall that Willis fell into some controversy earlier this year when an improper affair came to light between her and Special Prosecutor Nathan Wade. The Fulton County judge ruled that she could stay on the case so long as Wade dropped out, but Trump's lawyers are now arguing that she should be removed as well. The big takeaway here, Sharon, before the 2024 election.
So, Evan, we're also following developments in the former president's classified documents case. The judge making some changes.
Right. To simplify, we're seeing yet more delays in this case as well. The judge, Eileen Cannon, is planning to hold a sprawling hearing to decide whether or not the appointment of special counsel Jack Smith was valid. And on Wednesday, yet another hearing was scheduled for later this month, this time on a gag order request against Trump. Again, the big takeaway here is don't hold your breath for any trial anytime soon in this case. And Sharon, since news tends to break in threes, we have yet another court development, a third one, this time out of Manhattan, where Trump was found guilty of 34 felonies just last week. Prosecutors are now asking the judge to keep a gag order against Trump until at least his sentencing in July. Sharon?
All right. Evan Kozloff in Washington. Thank you. Senate. Republicans called the bill unnecessary, saying there is no threat to contraception access, something Democrats say they disagree with. Spectrum's Daniel Grimes reports from Washington.
Legislation to create a federal right to contraceptives failed Wednesday to win the 60 votes needed to advance in the Senate because of Republican opposition. Republicans called the bill unnecessary, saying there is no threat to contraception access. Democrats said that's what Republicans argued about abortion before the Supreme Court ended the constitutional right to one.
After years and years of being told that Roe would be protected, is this a gamble any one of us should be willing to take?
Soon, Democrats are expected to introduce a bill to establish the right to in vitro fertilization. Both bills are part of a plan to paint Republicans as out of touch on reproductive rights 2 years after the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade, and months after Alabama's highest court ruled the destruction of embryos could be later passed a law protecting IVF. But Democrats point to it as proof Republicans want to take rights away.
A no vote will prove what the GOP really stands for, gutting our protections.
Republicans say they support safe access to contraception, and these tactics are all about fear-mongering.
There's no intention that I hear from any Republicans that want to limit access to family planning.
Republican Senator Joni Ernst is proposing a bill that she says would increase access to and the availability of over-the-counter contraception. She says the difference is that her plan does not include access to Plan B, the so-called morning after, because Republicans want to prevent pregnancies, not end them. Democrats say her plan and another Republican bill to protect IVF are just PR tools to hide their extremism.
We have a lot of lies coming from the left, folks. I want you to be aware of that.
The wrangling in the Senate foreshadows the expected debate later this year when Democrats try to make the Republican position on campaigns for president and Congress. In Washington, Daniel Grimes, Spectrum News.
Just ahead on Spectrum News, male birth control, why some experts say it could be even more effective than medication for women.
Spectrum News Plus. News from a new perspective, dedicated to refreshing storytelling and empowering communities across the nation. With balanced reporting, providing real context and in-depth coverage 24 hours a day.
Here's a look at your forecast across the country.
Local stories, connecting communities. We are Spectrum News Plus. Streaming now on the Spectrum News app and free with your Spectrum subscription.
Now, we've taken a new step forward in reliability by identifying potential service issues before they become a problem. If you're affected, we'll contact you and help schedule a free service appointment with one of our expert technicians. The proactive maintenance of our network is one of the many reasons Spectrum delivers the most reliable internet speeds in the nation. Spectrum, keeping you connected.
When I never graduated from high school, I realized I wanted to go back to school because I didn't want to work these back-breaking jobs the rest of my life. With the help of my father and having my son, that was all the motivation that I needed to come back to school. I felt accomplished, made me feel that I could take on whatever challenges life throws at you.
Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org.
When I was in suitcase ready to go, then one day I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me. My parents cook my favorite breakfast for me every morning. My parents take me on trips I never thought I would go on. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.
Hi there, I'm meteorologist Robert Santos. We'll be tracking the chance for some thunderstorms moving into the southern plains all the way up to the northeast, especially the northeast as we go into the latter part of Thursday. Excessive rainfall is also possible, which could cause some flooding in the southwest and parts of Texas. Now, you can see here in the southwest how temperatures for Thursday once again will be above average, 13 to 15 degrees above average, 4 to 5 above average in Dallas. Same thing there in Florida. So look at the temperatures, triple digits easily for the southwest, 90s for Dallas and Houston, and Boston's come down now. So yeah, I know it's been warm there, now back to right at average with 70 for a high temperature. But this is where the dangerous heat will be. Once again, you could see from Lake Havasu to Las Vegas, all the way through central California, even up to Sacramento, although coming down from the triple digits to 99. No humidity there, but the humidity is going to be all across Texas. So these 90s in Austin, in Houston, in New Orleans will certainly make it feel more like the triple digits here. So it's going to be hot and it's going to be muggy, all because of this dome of high pressure that's causing sinking air across the central U.S. And, you know, scientists with Climate Central have found that summers in general have started to warm even more in the last 52 years. Summer warming was greater in the western and southwestern U.S. 96% of U.S. locations had an increase in their summer average temperatures, and they found that summer heat can also worsen poor air quality. And, of course, those who are impacted, children, elderly, outdoor workers, homeless, and even some athletes, especially if they live in places like Las Vegas, where the temperatures will be in the triple digits above the average of 96 degrees. Triple digits for another 4 days in San Antonio, temperatures in the 90s after that. In Boston, again, coming back to more average temperatures. And for the Dublin, Ohio Memorial Tournament, temperatures tomorrow will be in the low 80s for highs and then upper 70s after that.
Thursday will mark 80 years since D-Day, the invasion of Normandy that turned the tide against the Nazis in World War II, what many are calling the last major commemoration for the surviving veterans of D-Day. World War II veterans received a hero's welcome in France Wednesday, 8 decades after they arrived on the shores to liberate the continent. They're some of the last living veterans who fought in the war, many who are now at least 100 years old. Mary Scott was a radio operator for the British Army. She says she still remembers what she calls the horrors of war.
Men screaming. It was horrendous. Probably I grew up on that day.
Well, President Biden is expected to deliver remarks to commemorate D-Day Thursday morning, and Spectrum News will have live coverage. Turning to the Middle East, the Israeli military says it now has operational control over 2 areas of central Gaza, and tensions are high at the Israel-Lebanon border. Spectrum News anchor Carla Reddit tonight on the war.
The Israeli military says it has operational control over 2 areas of central Gaza. Troops continue to carry out ground incursions and airstrikes in a possible broadening of Israel's war against Hamas. During a trip Wednesday in an area near the Lebanese border, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu warned that his country is prepared for very strong action in the north.
Whoever thinks that they can hurt us and that we will sit idly by is making a big mistake.
The area has seen tit-for-tat strikes for months, with cross-border attacks setting off wildfires this week. It's a situation that worries the White House.
It's something we've been concerned about since the immediate aftermath of October 7th, and we have been engaged in intense diplomatic conversations and intense diplomatic negotiations to try to avoid that conflict from escalating beyond.
Thousands of mostly ultra-nationalist Israelis took part in Jerusalem Day, an annual march through a Palestinian neighborhood that tends to trigger clashes among the 2 groups. Senior Biden administration officials will head to the Middle East this week to participate in ongoing talks on a possible ceasefire and hostage release deal between Israel and Hamas. The world awaits a response as the 8-month war in Gaza lingers on, now cutting off the flow of food, medicine, and other supplies to Palestinians who are facing widespread hunger. Carla Reddit, Spectrum News.
The success of a new birth control option for men is getting a lot of attention. It's a gel that goes on a man's shoulders, and researchers say it's showing signs of being more effective than female birth control. Well, Spectrum News anchor Robert Guadarrama is here with all the details. And Robert, you spoke with the lead researcher.
Tells me that the male birth control gel has actually been in development for 20 years now, but it is now showing promising signs. The contraception gel functions very similarly to female birth control pills. Here's how it works. So it's a gel that men rub, as Sharon said, onto their shoulders once a day, and over time it's said to block the production of sperm. The gel uses a hormone called nesterone to suppress the production of testosterone, which halts the production of sperm. It also replenishes the body with non-sperm producing testosterone because men, of course, still need an appropriate level of testosterone in their bodies. It was developed by the Institutes of Health and the nonprofit Population Council. I spoke with Diana Blythe from the NIH, who has been part of the project since its inception, about the results of the clinical trials.
Since this is a daily use product, we had a hormonal birth control pill, which requires daily use. And in typical use, that failure rate's around 8%. This is working much better than that.
The final phase of testing could start as early as 2025 if the Food and Drug Administration gives approval for wide-scale trials. So, Sharon, we're still about 5 to 7 years away from this gel hitting the market.
There are a lot of people saying it's about time. This is a big talker.
Absolutely.
So, Robert, I have to ask you, what has been reactions to the news of how successful this trial has been?
Sure, and speaking with multiple people today, they all say that it's been overwhelmingly positive. And I actually spoke to a fertility and reproductive doctor, and she says that this has really been a long time coming. Listen.
I always feel like women and men are so unequal, like all the burden always on the woman to worry about birth control, to worry about her menstrual cycle, responsibility that can be shared by the couple. I think that actually is amazing, and I love the idea.
So yeah, so really it's, two can play the game, so it's shared responsibility now is really what it's all about.
Right, and a good point you said, we're still about 5 to 7 years from it hitting market, but very interesting. Sure. We'll keep a close eye on this. Yeah. Robert Guadarrama, thanks. Coming up on Spectrum News, a game-changing settlement in college athletics has been reached. How student athletes will benefit from the deal.
Here's the deal. In this election year, people need a place to explore national issues that have an impact on their community. To understand those issues better, we're bringing together our team of local political journalists from across the country to break down what's happening. So join us every week to catch up on the key stories making a big difference across the nation and in your local community.
Watch The Big Deal with Errol Lewis Friday nights at 9 Eastern, 8 Central on Spectrum News Plus. Available on all of your favorite devices exclusively on Spectrum.
Okay, Dad. 1, 2, 3. You saved me. Dad?
Are you okay?
I'm fine, dear.
Your hero needs you now, and AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need at aarp.org/caregiving.
I don't remember how it started.
Go to that.
Our back and forth. It always came back.
Dad!
You probably don't remember what you told me,
That was perfect.
but I heard every word.
We will be tracking the threat for some severe weather for Thursday. Hi there, I'm meteorologist Robert Santos. You can see how it changes on Wednesday. It was a marginal risk, so it wasn't anywhere near enhanced, moderate, or high for our Wednesday. But watch how that threat will shift into the northeast. And once again, it's going to be a marginal risk for some severe weather out there. But certainly some of the showers that we're going to get here, some of the rain, even some thunderstorms, could bring some excessive rainfall that could cause some flooding. So let's go to the northeast first. Here's Thursday morning. You can see it right around Boston, Connecticut. We're seeing it also coming across again from Massachusetts up into Vermont. So we're going to see this line coming through right around Thursday night and then pushing up towards Maine as we go into late Thursday. Now let's come south and take a look here because we will start to see some storms bubble up across the south. Here's Thursday right around 12 o'clock through parts of Florida and also the panhandle there, and then coming across Georgia. Now as we go through the afternoon here in evening hours, here's Thursday 6 o'clock, you could see what will be coming through parts of Florida as well. So looking at the next 3 days, Orlando's one of those places I've got thunderstorms in the forecast for Thursday. Drier after that, temperatures in the mid to upper 90s, so it's going to be hot. It's going to be muggy. Syracuse, New York, I've got rain in the forecast, especially on Thursday with those chances for thunderstorms. But notice how the temperatures will drop come Friday and Saturday. Bangor, Maine, we've got a cool down for you coming Friday being the coolest in mid-60s, but that's because we'll get some of the rain moving in with some of that cooler air coming from the north. And Saturday there, it's going to be a wet start for you. The precipitation outlook for basically through mid-June, we're talking about June 11th through the 15th. As from the Climate Prediction Center, you could see a wetter than average outlook right around the southwest. This is due to the start of the monsoon storms coming across the area there. Drier than average here for the eastern half, which at least from the Midwest down into the south. But right there in the southeast, that's where we could start to see more rain in the forecast. Let's talk about the next 10 days here in Dublin, Ohio. Because of the Memorial Tournament, there are chances for showers Friday and Sunday. Those temperatures, though, upper 70s there, 80s to start, which is very close to the average. Good thing it's not next week. That's when things will be a lot hotter then. And you notice, yeah, we're getting closer to summer, so temperatures are warming up.
Another historic record-setting day on Wall Street. So the S&P 500 jumped 1.2% to beat its record set just 2 weeks ago. The Nasdaq rose 2%, also closing at an all-time high. The Dow was also up, ending the session at 38,807. Disney's on the verge of striking a $17 billion deal to get bigger. The deal with the Central Florida Tourism and Oversight District had been delayed by Disney's litigation with Governor Ron DeSantis, which ended in March. 5 supervisors appointed by DeSantis have voted to approve the deal. A second vote is still needed. If approved, the deal will last 15 years. Now, in that time, Disney can build 3 more theme parks, add nearly 13,000 hotel rooms, plus increase the amount of retail and restaurant spaces. Disney will have to award at least half of their construction projects to Florida-based companies, invest at least $10 million in affordable housing, and donate 100 acres of land to local infrastructure projects. The vote to finalize the deal is set for next week. The National Basketball Association is close to a new massive TV deal with several partners. NBC would pay more than $2 billion a year under the new agreement, airing about 100 games per season. Amazon would pony up nearly $2 billion per season. And ESPN Disney will increase their current deal and pay just over $2 billion to continue airing regular season games and the NBA Finals. A game-changing settlement in college athletics has been reached to give student athletes the green light to transfer schools multiple times and play without having to sit out a year. Well, joining me now from Ohio is our Beyond the Sport anchor, Marilee Melendez. Marilee, a potential game-changer in college athletics.
Hi, Sharon. Yes, this is a huge win for college athletes in the now ever-changing world of the transfer portal. Let me catch you all up to speed on how this happened. So several state attorneys general sued the NCAA because of a long-standing transfer rule that required athletes that transfer more than once to have to sit out a year before they play for their new team. Now, in order to get around this, you had to submit a waiver to the NCAA, and well, oftentimes the organization denied the waivers without cause. With the transfer portal and name, image, and likeness now booming, and many athletes are choosing to go where they can get playing time and get paid. But as you can imagine, sitting out an entire year when you only have so many of eligibility is a big deal.
Yeah, very much so. So, Marilee, how was the settlement reached, and what does it mean for athletes?
The attorneys general requested a preliminary injunction, Sharon, and last week a judge in West Virginia granted it. So now the NCAA is not allowed to enforce its transfer rule. It also requires the NCAA to grant an additional year of eligibility to Division I athletes who, for any reason, were previously deemed ineligible under the transfer rule since the 2019-2020 year. So that impacts a lot of athletes and will give some another year of playing time.
Oh, wow, that is interesting. All right, so what happens next? Any more hoops to go through?
Well, while this agreement is a huge win, it does still need approval of a U.S. district judge, which could come sometime this summer. It's also worth noting the states that filed this lawsuit against the NCAA were joined by the U.S. Department of Justice on the basis the current NCAA rule infringes on the athlete's ability to market their labor. Sharon.
All right, Marilee Melendez from Beyond the Sport. Thanks. I'm Sharon Tazwell. Thanks for watching. Your Spectrum News in 90 is coming up right after this short break. Stay with us.
At Spectrum News, we're committed to strengthening the fabric of local communities through our reporting, with stories that inspire and news that matters. Streaming live on your smart TV and connected devices, plus on-demand weather forecasts. It's all there as you step outside with the Spectrum News mobile app, keeping you informed and in the know throughout your day. Spectrum News Plus, local stories, connecting communities. Exclusively for Spectrum customers. Now available on your favorite devices.
At Spectrum, our workforce of over 100,000 employees are all located right here in the U.S. You can find them in our stores, in the field, and in our call centers with 100% U.S.-based customer service. Our team works hard to provide the towns, cities, and neighborhoods they live in with the reliable services that everyone counts on, making us one of America's most trusted companies. We're Spectrum, creating jobs and opportunities across the country, and proud to be 100% U.S.-based.
Today I'm going to talk to you about physics. Come on in, girls. Let's go. This is the first rocket to get humans to Mars.
Really tall.
I'm the generation that will be stepping foot on Mars. Do I have a group of astronauts on my hands?
Yes.
You can become a rocket scientist or whatever else you want to be.
Here you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Never gonna let you go.